Right now, we have the opportunity to speak with the Summit County Health Department. Dr. Phil Bondurant is joining us today. We appreciate him taking the time to inform our viewers right now on everything happening in Summit County as regards to COVID-19. Dr. Bondurant, thanks for being here.
Morning, Christine. Thanks for having me.
So last couple of weeks have actually been rather busy here in Summit County as we've seen a spike in cases. Tell me more about that situation.
Yeah, with what we've seen across the United States, we're not immune to the idea that we're going to have spikes and valleys in the number of COVID cases, and it's been fairly. Most of people in Summit County have heard it. It's out in the news that we did have a social gathering that resulted in a small spike or surge of cases here in Summit County, and over the last 2 weeks, we've seen quite a few cases come through as a result of that social gathering, but also just a general increase in cases. We've had a number of summer events and things that have occurred that people have come to town. People are out and about. They're doing those things, and what's natural with any type of disease or outbreak is as exposures increase, we should expect the number of cases to as well. We look across the U.S. and they're still reporting quite a few tens of thousands of cases each day. We're still seeing quite a few numbers of deaths across the United States each day being reported, upwards of 900 to 1,000. So we're definitely not out of the woods, and we were fortunate that over the course of quite a few weeks that we had very good numbers and very good trends. And this most recent spike kind of sent that in a whirlwind, but now we're starting to kind of recede or fall off of that spike, and we're starting to see those trends stabilize to what we've become accustomed to.
And with that event that in part caused the recent spike of COVID-19 cases, do you feel like most of those cases that were a direct result from that party have been diagnosed? Do you think there's still more coming? How do you think that situation has played out?
Yeah, that's really tough to say at this point. Even though we're 10 to 14 days out from what we believe was the kind of the ground zero or the start of that, the investigation is still ongoing, and we realize that there's individuals in the community that are frustrated that we have not released more details. But as with any type of outbreak investigation prior to COVID, when the health department did outbreak investigations, and um, anytime you're dealing with medical and personal health information, that information is HIPAA protected. And so um, that HIPAA protection, coupled with the idea that there's still an ongoing investigation, we have to be very reserved in what we do release as a courtesy to the individuals involved, but also to ensure that that investigation is not compromised. So it is a great reminder to people that we are not out of the woods, that our community, um, while we've experienced good trends, as I've said, we still have the opportunity for events like this to occur. So we need to maintain those things that we've been talking about for the last 6 months now of social distancing, hand washing, mask wearing, all those things that we know contribute to good trends and put us on a good path forward. We still need to keep doing those even through the summer, start of school, into the fall.
And if someone is planning an event, they have something coming up, what do you recommend as they try and do a celebration in a safe way?
Yeah, we get that question quite a bit, and it's a great question. We appreciate people calling and asking. Right now, we're fortunate. It's a little hot still outside. It's been kind of a dry summer, and we can all recognize that, but it's a beautiful time to be outside in the evening to hold those events outdoors, family gatherings, family dinners, outside, outdoors, on the backyard, on a picnic table. That's going to be your safest bet. You still want to maintain social distancing. Try to limit your contact with individuals, even in your family, as difficult that is. But there's still ways to do things outside. Obviously, the size of the gathering can increase exposure and increase that risk, but you can still do things outside and do so responsibly. We've had many successful events where people have observed a lot of those things that we have asked them to do in terms of social distancing and masks, and they've had a very successful event. But we've also seen the other end of the spectrum where if those things are not observed or not a big part of that celebration or that gathering, it can definitely go south very quickly.
As school is back in session, we have football games going on. People are starting to gather together, and we have the mask mandate here in Summit County. We're also told to be socially distant. Is it one or the other? Is it both ideally? Is there one we should do over the other if we can't do both? Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, that's first and foremost. We should have masks on outside. Obviously, if you're social distancing, you're running on a trail, riding a mountain bike, masks are not as important as they are if you enter into a facility where social distancing might be troubling, a grocery store. Those things, not only is a good practice, but it's also required. When we get to an outdoor venue like a football game, the athletic directors, the school superintendents, we've had multiple conversations about what that means, but now the governor has also been involved and created expectations as to individuals wearing masks, not only on the field when they're sitting out, but also for those in the stands. You may have heard the news story from down in American Fork where the coach and the athletic director stopped a football game, middle of the game, until the parents and those in the stands that were participating complied with the mask order that they had in place for the game. So we're starting to see where if we want these young athletes and these kids to have a fall sports season, we need to do our part in wearing masks, adhering to the guidelines that have been posted, and doing those things that we can to protect ourselves and those around us. So we definitely see that there's a desire in the community for these football games and other athletic events, indoor volleyball games, and matches to take place. And if that's our desire and our wish for these young athletes to have that fall season, especially these seniors, we need to do our part and wear our masks, social distance. A lot of people are becoming accustomed to having conversations with that 6 feet in between them, whereas before we wanted to be more closer, right in that conversation space that we've become accustomed to. But now it's a greater distance at 6 feet, and we need to make sure that we're doing our part not only to, again, to protect ourselves, but to protect our community.
So, just to clarify, whether you're inside or outside, if you're at work or at school, ideally you should wear a mask and be socially distant. But if you can't, make sure you have that mask on.
Yeah, and part of the Summit County order is that for any event, public or private, indoor or outdoor, where 50 people or more are present, you have to have a mask on. So we start to look at these different uh, things that have been put in place to really provide protections. And there's a number of individuals and experts and professionals across the nation that believe that some of the positive trends that we're seeing across the nation are due to masks. And I know it's a politically charged topic, and there's a number of individuals that still aren't sold on the idea of wearing a mask. But again, this is more of a social duty to our neighbors, to our community, to our friends, to do what we can to protect everyone around us, including ourselves. And despite where you're at with that politically, it's just a good Samaritan thing to do. We know we have significant evidence that shows that they do have wearing masks and face coverings has a positive impact on the COVID-19 response and where we're at. So if we can do that through the fall and into the winter until vaccines become available, it'll be a much better outcome for us here in Summit County as well as Utah and the rest of the United States.
And the schools here with Park City School District have been open for a week now. We've had football games for a couple of weeks. I know you don't have a crystal ball, and COVID is so hard to really track or really understand what it is doing. But when do you anticipate seeing if it's working with our back to school efforts, with these football games? When would a spike happen?
Yeah, that's hard to say. I know a lot of the schools are in a position right now where we can take breaks and get kids outside and allow them some fresh air time and recess and those types of things. But it's really hard to say. We don't know what it's going to look like in the fall, late fall, winter, when we have to spend more time indoors because of the weather. There's other school districts in the United States as well as here in Utah that opened a week to 10 days earlier than we did up here in Summit County. And so we're keeping close eye on those trends as well and what's happening down there. But as of now, there's been a few cases pop up here and there across the state of Utah in athletic teams. And we've been fortunate that here in Summit County, we haven't experienced what they're experiencing elsewhere. But we're fortunate also that across the state we have a number of different canary in the mines, if you will, something that will be a sounding block or kind of that crystal ball that you've referred to as to what might happen if we see things, trends occurring 10 days before us, what we might expect. And to this point, we haven't seen anything that creates alarm. However, everybody's still on high alert per se because this is still new. We're still trying to figure this out and what it looks like. And so hopefully we can maintain this level of commitment throughout the rest of the school year until those vaccines are available. But as this becomes somewhat mundane and cumbersome moving later into the year, we'll definitely see how committed and how habitual this can become for not only the students but the staff, the administration, and people in the community. Because really, that's the challenge that we have is the continuation of this for months on end.
And before we run out of time, Dr. Bondurant, any last words, anything else that you would like our viewers, our community to know as we head into the winter months and flu season? There's a lot of ground still to cover.
There is, yes, there is, and we're aligning ourselves with what the CDC has asked. We're aligning ourselves with other health experts in that we're encouraging folks to get their flu shots. That will help continue to free up space in our hospitals. At this point, our hospital here in Park City, and as well as the rest of the Intermountain Healthcare system, has done a great job at weathering the storm per se. But we do not want to create additional burden with the flu season. There was a number of people that felt that COVID was very similar to the flu, and obviously we've seen that that's not the case, as it's stuck with us, unfortunately, throughout the summer in those warmer months that we didn't know what was going to happen. And so that being said, as we move into fall, remain vigilant, do what's being asked of all of us, wearing masks, hand washing, social distancing, and we've got just a little bit more time. We're definitely not through the woods, but there's starting to be light at the end of the tunnel, and some of the vaccine developments and the promising information coming out of that realm as well. So we would ask that the community continue to rally, continue to support your community, your neighbors, wear those masks, and there will be a time and a day here in the next couple of months, hopefully, if not a little bit sooner, that we find ourselves talking about vaccines and returning to what might be the new normal.
Looking forward to that time. Thank you so much, Dr. Phil Bondurant, for joining us today from the Summit County Health Department. We always appreciate you taking the time to inform our viewers and update us on everything happening in Summit County in regards to COVID-19.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be back with more on this Health and Wellness Thursday right after this.